Hello everybody, welcome to another Timotheus Enterprises broadcast, and had a lot of technical difficulties coming on. I had done my research and my browser dumped my information 2 or 3 times and I had to go back and try and dig it all up. It dumped the history and everything, so it's been quite an ordeal to get this on the road. So tonight, or rather in this video, I want to cover a few things, and as you could see by the title, I want to go over and why I am saying what I'm saying on the title, and that is because of things that we're hearing today. And those things are not good. Those things, we've seen them coming, and yet people seem to be oblivious. And I want to say, I don't think that, or it's not a good thing for us to be like the ostrich. Now, we get the term sticking your head in the sand from the ostrich, who we know, the mother ostrich, when they have their young, they have their eggs, they set their eggs in a nest out in the open, and then for some odd reason they literally put their heads, bury their heads in the sand, and they refuse to see what's coming at them. And I forgot to set this up real quickly here. I'm going to go to a break real fast and then come back. Alright, I apologize for that. It just seems like I can't get my act together on this, and I can't get all of the things to line up to do this. And so in this video I want to talk about why we are done as a country. We're so screwed. And I want to take a look specifically at some of the headlines today, and those would be the Trump indictment, arrest and indictment. We're seeing that, and I've made the statement and showed you articles that they're planning for another pandemic, and we're going to see a little bit more about what they're saying about that. Now, I want to bring something out because what's going on is that the media is acting like this is a new thing, and I'm finding out this is not a new thing. And it's kind of funny because well, I'll just show you here in a minute what I'm talking about. This whole thing is, I'm telling you, it's a pandemic, and this new thing that they're coming up with goes back at least to 2021, if not 2020, and I'll show you why I'm saying that. So we're going to look at the Trump deal. We're going to look at some economic things. I really didn't dig into the economic things. I'm just going to mention a couple of things. But more importantly, just some obvious garbage It really is obvious garbage. So let's start with, why don't we do this? Let's start with the pandemic. I'm going to bring in a video. I'm going to set this video up. And I want you to know that I have not vetted this individual. This person is extremely popular, has risen from nobody to stardom in the podcasting world, and that would include being on par viewership-wise with the likes of Glenn Beck and Valuetainment with Patrick Bet-David. The lady from Fox that has now her own channel, and Megan, I think it's Megan. I haven't watched the local news in so long I can't even remember half their names. So anyways, this person is showing you some things, and then I'm going to show you, or I'm going to make a statement, and then I'm going to show you why I think that he's right. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll get into this. Excuse me. And then I'll come back and we'll deal with it. So here we go.
Here's the story from today from CBS News. Atlanta-based Morris Brown College says they are reinstating COVID mask mandates. Lionsgate reinstates mask mandate in parts of Santa Monica office following COVID outbreak. And don't forget, the New York Post, amid summer surge of new COVID variant, should we be wearing masks?
No.
You've also got a bunch of stories about Biden advocating for people to start getting their vaccines once again. We've got a new vaccine variant being released this fall, according to Forbes. But it seems very likely, at least right now, that COVID mandates will be returning. Now, the story started with none other than Alex Jones, who said that he spoke with a TSA whistleblower who said that they had been called into a meeting to discuss the new COVID policies, and by October, they will be in full-blown COVID policy mandate, etc. I don't know that's guaranteed, because often when there's a big backlash, when we talk about things, when other shows talk about it, then these stories might disappear because they're worried about a big splash shocking people. So maybe nothing happens. But I do got to say, I don't know what else the Democrats can do to try to win in 2024, because they desperately need that procedural help when it comes to universal mail-in voting.
You could supply a good candidate. That would help. Robert F. Kennedy, I don't know if he really has a chance in hell. The problem with the Democratic Party is they have super delegates, so they can just pick the candidate. So it doesn't really matter who votes for who. They just decide that that's the
how it
person
goes.
we're going to run this time. So nice Democratic Republic.
Well, it's like, the Democrats are the Harlem Globetrotters and the Republicans are the Washington Generals.
That's pretty accurate, I think.
So
Yeah. I
Gavin
didn't make that
Newsom's
up.
not
That's
the
really funny
guy.
joke.
Michelle.
Okay, so that's that. They just went into that. And I want to share with you that while he mentioned Alex Jones, and Alex Jones has broken this whole thing wide open, that they are planning mask mandates and that they are planning lockdowns, we have seen that there are those who would actually say that Alex Jones is just spreading conspiracy theories. However, I don't think that's entirely the case. And the other thing that I want to mention is that this guy here is was on Alex Jones. He's been featured on Alex Jones. And also the fact that Alex Jones is in Austin, Texas. Now, here's the thing. You all in Texas think that you are living in a free state. And I want you to know that your governor and Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, and there was like 5 or 6, are on board with the UN agendas as far as making you poor and making you eat bugs, as well as they are involved in the actual, what I'm going to call the quiet red dawn across our southern border and the human trafficking. And that has been blown wide open on Redacted, and I'm not sure who exactly Redacted is. I mean, I know who they are, but I know that they are former Fox personalities, but I don't know who they are. But they broke a story of a guy down in the border who has $250,000 or $500,000 worth of gear on his truck and is tracking all of this human trafficking coming across the southern border, and is showing and proving how the politicians and the departments in these border states, all the way tied to DC, are actually involved, to including Border Patrol at the higher levels, are involved in actually allowing this red dawn to take place. Now let's tie this back to this whole thing here. The whole thing is that Texas is, while they tell their people one thing, just like everybody else, they tell their people one thing, they turn around and do something else. And Alex Jones makes good commentary in the fact that he brings out the fact that this is all smacking of UN agenda stuff. And I just want to go on the record by saying that I'm just not getting this stuff from other podcasters. I'm not just getting this stuff from social media. I'm looking for this right here. I have a communication from an individual that I know, I'll say up in the north, that knows somebody in the medical field down in the south, down in Texas. And this is what this communication said. Incoming from someone else. So just to give a heads up, my lady friend works in medical. Excuse me. And she is the assistant for the director of the medical board for Texas Health. The director received info that lockdowns are indeed coming back, and that COVID protocols, and that would be all of the stupid stuff that we grew to know and love to death, all these things are coming back. That COVID protocols are coming back due to the Canadian variant that is having an uptick. Okay. So what we're hearing through social media, which the main news outlets are saying are actually conspiracy, is starting to flow through personal channels. And so, again, when Alex Jones says something, and he does it in the Alex Jones style, does not necessarily mean you should just roll your eyes and bury your head in the sand like an ostrich. You need to stay alert. You need to understand what is coming and prepare. You need to keep your eyes open, and you need to get your own sources and talk to the people that you know. And invariably, the people that you know will start giving you information locally and abroad that will collaborate, validate, or negate all of the other information that we're getting from these various more popular channels. Do you understand that? I just gave you an incredible tip on how to collect intel. So, I'm trying to find this video from Alex Jones. It disappeared as well because of what he was saying with all this. And it's all tied to the WHO and to the UN. Okay? So let's go back to, for a little bit, let's go back to these guys here. I'll try to get through areas that don't pertain. And then we're going to come back to this whole thing. And I'm going to show you how this is tied, exactly like Alex Jones said, is at least tied to world or global players. And I'll bet you can imagine what the organizations are and what the names are. I'll bet you can. So let's see what else these guys have to say. Oh, wrong slider.
Because she would win, but
she
I
doesn't
don't
want to
know.
do it.
you don't think so?
I would have agreed with that a couple of years ago. I'm not so convinced today. Trump got 75 million votes in 2020. That is more than he got more votes than any sitting president. No strong.
Okay, so I think we're done with this guy. I thought he had more to say about the whole thing. We're done with that. Let's not wrong thing. All right, we're done with that. Not going there anymore. Let's go to some of these tabs that I've got up, and I'm going to show you something. You gotta be kidding me. Oh, these. Okay. Oh, come on, Wall Street. Now they're throwing the screen up so that I can't read the article. They want me to subscribe. Please. Okay, so let's do this real quick. Oh, come on. It just decides to do it when I throw it on the screen. Look at the date, 2021. To prevent the next pandemic, scientists seek one vaccine for many coronaviruses. 2021. That's what I wanted to show you. 2021. Is that not rather incredible? And so let's go down and find another tab. So this stuff goes back to 2021. Come on. Here's another one. This one comes straight out of the United Nations. The UN Chronicle. Now notice what it's saying. Notice the date here. Notice the date right here, lower left-hand corner. December 27th, 2021. Prepare to prevent developing pandemic, busting vaccines against disease X. Okay, now, notice what that says. Preparing to prevent against disease X. Now, what's the problem with this? What seems to be the main issue? Well, let's just listen to this for just a moment. Come on now. Oh my goodness. It just does not want to cooperate tonight. Unbelievable. Disease X. Now notice notice the date here for this article, and this has a video with it. Disease. And I was trying to play it, but it's doing everything like the others are doing. So here is Disease X. UK scientists begin developing vaccines against the new pandemic. Published the 7th of August, 2023. So let's see if it'll play.
Distinguished guests,
There we go.
policy
Come on.
makers and industry captains, welcome to Kuala Lumpur and to the very first Energy Asia.
We've got the attendance of over 100 speakers, delegates from across 27 countries.
This is really maybe the first conference in Asia that is an
Okay. Throw in stuff that is not pertaining. Oh, come on. Boy, I'm really struggling tonight. Oh, there was a guy showing from the WHO that they were planning for something they don't know anything about. Now, in this video, or in this article, they're saying that SARS virus killed roughly 1 in 10 of those infected. MERS still kills 1 in 3. Now, I don't know if you remember when these things came to the United States, and they didn't get very far. It was the biggest scare in 2020, I think it was, or 2019, and nothing ever come of it. Not a soul died from it. And so how they're coming across and saying this is beyond me. Now we're going to go to the lockdowns. So this guy that I showed you at first from Timcast and from Alex Jones is saying that they're saying that lockdowns are imminent. And then I showed you, or I read to you the communication that I had from somebody else basically backing up the same thing. And in this particular article, and you can go on to Google and see this for yourself. Morris Brown College in Atlanta, Georgia, implements a 2-week COVID-19 mask mandate as cases climb. This was stated August the 20th of 2023. All students, faculty, and staff were being asked to wear masks, practice social distancing, and quarantine if they are feeling sick. Now, I would have you remember that the coronavirus is basically an outbreak of influenza, and we are now in the influenza season, or going into it. and here in USA Today, they say there are at least 500 coronaviruses. We must develop vaccines now, experts say, for the next generation. This was published March the 15th of 2023. And I also want to remind you that the coronavirus in and of itself is by itself an animal-only virus, just like mad cow disease and others. And unless they are tinkering with it, and they're trying to develop what they're saying now in 2023, vaccines for whatever it is that they don't know about, but yet back in 2020 and 21, they still called it back then Pandemic X or Virus X. And they're trying to develop a vaccine that is modular, that is the vaccine of all vaccines that will treat all pandemics. Folks, there is only one way that you're going to do that. And that is to edit your DNA. Pure and simple. There's only one way to do that, and that is to edit your DNA. And not only is the college in Atlanta saying that they need to and are mandating the masks, the whole secondary university and education system in Atlanta is planning for these same things for the fall. Why? It's the flu season. But they're going to go with COVID mandates for the fall. They're already planning for COVID mandates for the fall. And they said this back in June. Now that tab has also disappeared. How nice. I really am having a time with my information tonight. But I find it very interesting that articles dating back to 21 and 20 are talking about disease X, and just now the mainstream media is talking about disease X. Back in 2018, they were preparing for threats, a new form of influenza, a novel coronavirus, a mutated measles-like virus. Right here, there was no way of knowing for sure where the threat would come from, which is a total lie. And back in 2018, now we're talking here, 3 years after, 18, 19, 20, 21. In 2021, they're talking about creating a virus or a vaccine for disease X within 100 days. Well, they haven't done that, but they're still on the warpath for a disease they don't know anything about. And here we are, 2023, and the media is just now starting to talk about it. And so this thing, as others would state, is not a pandemic, and whatever comes is not a pandemic. It is, in fact, a plandemic. Now, the question is, how are we going to respond? What are we as a people going to do? I also find it very ironic that they are starting to talk about this, number one, in
COVID lockdowns may seem like a distant memory of the IFS, and one of the authors in the study.
I did not touch you. And so I find it interesting that this stuff is just now coming out pre-election as well as post-Biden criminal exposés, so to speak. Here's another article from CBS. As COVID cases flare, some schools, businesses reinstate the mask mandate. Now, understand, I'm not saying that the government is reinstating the mandates, but we're seeing the prelude to such a thing. And so that is that for the moment. Let's get rid of that. I'm not even going to go there. Now, let's talk about Donald Trump. But before we do, before we talk about Donald Trump, I'm just going to have a very quick break. If you don't mind, stop by my shop at Etsy, Timothy's Enterprises. Check out the products that you see up in the photograph from my landscape photographs. Cutting boards for the kitchen. They're actually very high quality. Coffee mugs featuring my landscape photographs, and jigsaw puzzles for your coffee table, and cell phone holders for your desk, as well as wall clocks for your wall. And that will help me keep things rolling, because I'm financing everything by myself as I go along. And so that is how Timothy's Enterprises does what it does. And so with that, we'll come on back to what I'm covering. So we'll just get rid of all that because it is really throwing me a fit. So we found out that Trump was indicted. He was indicted not for Russian collusion. He was not indicted for any kind. He wasn't indicted for having his sensitive information in his garage in boxes, though his Mar-a-Lago estate was torn apart. Of course, the Biden estate was rated also as a equalizer. You know, if we do one, we got to do the other so we don't show partiality. Of course, that's all a bunch of nonsense. That's all just a smokescreen. And he wasn't indicted for being impeached while he was the president. He was indicted for election tampering, I guess you would call it. Well, they said election. Man, I can't think of the right things. In any case, how is it that one of the known states, Georgia, known for its tampering, its own tampering with the ballot box, with the mail-in ballots, along with Michigan and Minnesota and 2 other states, was known for tampering with the ballots, was known for having postal workers throw thousands of ballots, Trump ballots, by the way, in the garbage. And it's this same state that while we have found cocaine and drugs in the White House, it's the same state that is going to haul Donald Trump in for election tampering. That's the word I was looking for, election tampering. Well, let's just once again go over some of these things that really speak volumes as to why our country is so screwed. And don't forget that amid this election tampering charge, that a lot of our military people lost their ballots in the mail too, knowing that 90% of the military was pro-Trump. Can't forget that. So . what I want to do is I'm just going to read what I've written here in my notes, and then we're going to go through the list. And I've gone through some of this before. I hate to beat a dead horse, but the truth is the truth. And we've now added a few things. So, indictment and arresting an elected president for tampering with elections when the following has factually happened. Now, the reason why I'm saying factually happened is because in 2015, I was erroneously arrested with charges of terroristic threats with intent to terrorize another. I was looking at 20 years in the federal penitentiary for something I did not do. And I know I mentioned this before, but I'm just going to kind of go over how these things play out, because the average person hasn't gone through some of these stupid communist style, you are guilty before you are proven innocent, judicial proceedings. And so I had a run-in with a couple of guys that were having issues, so-called relations, with a couple of young girls in a hotel, and they were carrying on for 4.5 hours, and I had called the front desk twice, and nothing was going on, and then they come up to buy my room. Well, and I am I don't know how much I want to share with you. Okay, let's just say that I never threatened anybody. Whatever they said didn't happen. And later I find out that in that particular township, the police departments and the judges had been charged and arrested for running guns and girls through these hotels. And obviously, when I had confronted this military individual for carrying on like a punk while people were trying to sleep at 2:30 in the morning, I had run into one of their golden boys. And so when I went to prelim, I was at first presented with a plea to 10 years in prison and several tens of thousands, I think $50,000 in fines or something like that. And I said, no, we're going to court because I didn't do anything. We're going to fight it in court. We're going to court. And then the lawyer came back, which, by the way, was a flaming liberal. I didn't realize it, but he was a NRA lawyer, but he was a flaming liberal and was a Hillary lover. And in any case, we went back and said, no, we're going to fight it in court. And then they came back with another plea and of knocking me down to a misdemeanor of disorderly conduct and a $600 fine. So let me ask you this. If I was arrested as a domestic terrorist with threats to terroristic threats with intent to terrorize for pukes, why would you reduce me down to a misdemeanor of disorderly conduct? That's the first question. And then tell me that and then swear me in and swear and make me raise my right hand and swear that the charges presented are factual and did happen. To which I did not. I raised my right hand and I said the only thing I'm swearing to is that the charges are erroneous and false. I did nothing of the sort. And I don't need to be here. I just need to be working to provide for my family. And I am the one being threatened. And the judge, under her breath, said, Mr. Wright, I'm so sorry. And so, you know, why would she not throw this whole thing right out the door? And the reason is simple. Because as soon as she threw these charges out and told these cops to go pound sand, the minute I stepped out the door and my foot hit the ground, they would have arrested me and charged me with other charges that they had waiting. And she knew it. And then we would have been starting at square one, and I would have been back in court. And when I go to court to fight this thing, the Attorney General would have threw charges upon charges upon charges until something would stick. Do you see what's going on here? Do you see what is going on with the indictment of Donald Trump? Charges after charges after charges. Now let's compare this to some other things that we know. Like, you know, things such as things that factually happened. Remember the oath that I was supposed to take, that a factual event actually happened. And let's compare this indictment of Donald Trump with factual things that actually happened. We know for a fact that Bill Clinton, while he was a sitting president in office, sold military and government secrets to the Chinese, primarily government secrets. Why did he do that? Two reasons. And I don't know this for a fact, but I would guarantee you Hillary was behind it. But he did it for two reasons. One, for personal gain, and two, because Hillary was schooled by Zelensky, and Hillary and they ran to Russia when he was supposed to be drafted and spent a couple years over there. And their doctrine was to level the playing field globally, so that everybody has the same technology to create a stalemate. Let me ask you this. If you're the power with the power, and you haven't blown anybody up yet on a mass scale, and you have prevented war after war, why in the world would you sell your military classified sensitive secrets to a communist nation that is a global world player? While at the same time removing China from the non-favored trade status that they had with us, being that we are supposed to be a free republic and they were and are a communist bloc. Why would he have done that? And there has been no ramifications, zero. No ramifications for him in selling these secrets. How about, tied to that, but much, much later, how about Hillary maintaining a private server in her own home containing national security documents and who knows what else, and selling passwords to the highest bidders around the world? And yet, nothing ever happened. So far, the things that I mentioned with the Clintons alone, not to mention Benghazi with Obama and Biden and Hillary, so far these things alone, in my humble estimation, would be classified as aiding and abetting enemy combatants or national enemies. Right? How about George Bush coming in with the Patriot Act, aka the Communist Manifesto? And that was acknowledged by somebody I know in and around the FBI, that it is nothing more than a communist manifesto. And at that point, we created the Homeland Security. Since when is continental United States ever referred to the motherland or the homeland? Not until George Bush created the Department of Homeland Security for the motherland, the homeland. And yet, he and his father, well, his father's passed away now, but he is still roaming the planet. Not to mention the invasion of other countries. Well, let's take a look at some more list. Come on, there you go. How about something that's just more domestic? How about the election fraud itself? How about the Bundy Ranch? Remember the Bundy Ranch? When Cliven Bundy was being kicked off of grazing ground that had been grazing ground for 150 years for the farmers, the ranchers. And the reason why he was being kicked off by federal agents on so-called federal land, which is unconstitutional, according to the Constitution, the federal government can only own land for the sake of port of entries and military installations. But they own millions of acres of land that they control. BLM land. Bureau of Land Management. And they were going to run ranchers off of this grazing land that the government is in control of, and they really have no business being in control of it. Now, I do appreciate national parks, monuments. I appreciate the access to them. I appreciate the upkeep. But it really should be left to the states. Because unless each individual state has in their constitution things that say they can't own land other than their Capitol buildings and whatnot, then maybe the states should be running what the federal government's running. Why? Because that is closer to the vest of the people in those particular areas and states. How about Fast and Furious? The gun running across the southern border, back and forth, selling stolen Americans' guns to people in Mexico to pin the sales on Americans. Factual events tied to Rahm and Holder and Obama. That's not necessarily treason unless you consider what's going on the southern border now, and not unless you consider the cartel as a national security threat. If that's the case, then it was treason. But at the very least, it was criminal for a sitting president, for the Director of Homeland Security and Attorney General to be involved in running guns. And yet, they run or walk free. And one went back to be the mayor of Chicago for a while, or mayor of Chicago. How about uranium? One, Hillary selling uranium, the largest deposit in the U.S., actually the largest uranium deposit in the Northern Hemisphere of continental United States, or America, and selling it to the Russians. And the government being behind it. How is the government behind it? Because according to ham radio reports, this was a factual event, and there were special forces there running road checks, checkpoints on the roads, along with local law enforcement. And the bird refuge that Lavoy Finnegan and Ammon Bundy was bringing the evidence to a constitutional lawyer when Lavoy was shot in the snow. And I possessed the unedited drone footage of that shooting. It's buried. I don't know where it's at right now. But nobody has been indicted for that. How about the Bidens with over 20 shell companies? Now, what is a shell company? A shell company is simply a company that really doesn't exist. A shell company only exists on the books, but doesn't provide any real product or service to the public. A shell company only exists for the purpose of running and laundering money. And it is a factual event, or as I was told to swear to, a factual happening. And it is factual that the Bidens have over 20 shell companies that they run their nefarious criminal money through. You can look it up. How about drugs in the White House? Now, there's a good possibility that this hasn't been the only time that drugs have been in the White House, but it is the one time that they were found to be in the open and made public. We don't know who those are. Somehow all that evidence got flushed. Gee, nobody's getting indicted for that. And how convenient of timing that all this other stuff is taking place. How about Joe Biden, the sitting president of the United States right now, using fake names to conduct business with Ukraine while he was a sitting inactive vice president? How about the FBI and Governor Steele and Hillary being caught creating a fake dossier for a Russian collusion case against a president to be elected and then a sitting president, all to find out that it was all fraudulent and fake. And yet, nobody's going to jail or prison or that one. Nobody's getting arrested for that. How about a police raid on a small town senior citizen newspaper owner because they didn't like what she was reporting? How about the January 6th insurrection being a total fraud? How about the Justice Department right now going after the whistleblower of the Bidens, blowing the Bidens' cases wide open, and the Justice Department arresting them for running and smuggling guns versus the Bidens who were running and smuggling the guns? This is all stuff you can find. This is all stuff you can find yourself. Now tell me why this country is not well done. Tell me why we're not cooked and why we're not getting thrown back into the oven. Because that's exactly what's going on. We are cooked. Our goose is cooked like a Thanksgiving turkey, and we're getting thrown back into the oven. Let me tell you something. Alex Jones is not sharing a conspiracy. Sarah Gonzalez from the Bronx, who was on New York City's committees during the coronavirus and is now a podcast personality. Timcast. Tim from Timcast, who reported unashamedly the riots. I don't know, what were they called? When everybody was screaming the 1%, the 1%, the 1%. What were those riots called? He was the one person on the ground reporting them as they happened, unedited. He is not a conspiracy theorist. He is not spreading conspiracy. what Alex Jones is telling you is the truth. And I'm not saying that there ain't issues with Alex Jones. I don't know him, but I mean, there are questions to be had about a lot of these people. But they are telling us, and if you connect the dots, you will see that they are in fact getting ready to go back into lockdowns and into COVID mandates. And they are preparing for a variant X, and they've been preparing for a variant X since at least 2021. This is not something new. And they are saying that they are trying to create a vaccine that is a complete all-pandemic killer. And the only way that happens is, number one, all these pandemics are created by them from the same blocks. So if the vaccine is modular and it can come out of its modularity and go after different aspects of pandemics, then that means the pandemics that they throw out are also modular, which also means that they were 100% created by man. Now, one of the articles mentioned the WHO and mentioned WEF and mentioned Bill Gates and mentioned Fauci. And unfortunately, that crazy tab vanished, and I don't have that article to show you, but it came up. All you got to do is look for enough Google stuff and you will find it. And these people were talking about this stuff in 2017. So if they were talking about this stuff in 2017, why are they not being arrested for taking animal pathogens, animal viruses, and mutating them to be used on human beings? That is, in fact, a crime against humanity. In this country, our leadership is 100% on board with the WEF, which is the Fourth Reich of world domination. Just listen to them. Just read their stuff. That's all you got to do. And it's on board with the UN agenda. Was Agenda 20, then 21, and now 30. They're on board. And you and I are the recipients. And you tell me, give me one good reason why we aren't cooked and done for. We had election fraud, and the Justice Department did nothing. And now they're arresting Trump for election fraud. And some will say, well, we're not done because we will revolt. Right. Okay. Whatever you say. I don't buy it. I don't think that we have it in us to revolt. And by revolt, I don't mean revolt, I mean restore. I don't think we have it in us to restore. I think we're rotten to the core. I think we're weak. We're weak-spined. We're weak-bellied. And some will say that we're not. From my observation, since 2018, and 9. The line in the sand has been moved a half a dozen times. And here we are. Folks, I don't know what I can do to tell you that you make a difference. Somewhere along the line, from the time I was in grade school, and we were told that everybody is unique, and everybody makes a difference. Somewhere along the line, we have bought the lie that you just don't matter, and you do. And I know where this all starts, but it's not for this video to get into. But if you dehumanize, then you can understand why you would buy the rhetoric that you don't matter. You matter. I guess I would end this particular episode, or this particular talk, this particular video, with that. You do matter. You matter. There's one race, and as Americans, as a person, you matter. So with that, I would ask that you be sure to go to YouTube and like and subscribe and share. I've got some other videos I'm working on, and I'm looking forward to sharing those with you. And I'll give you a preview, or a heads up. Video 1 is dealing with depression from a non-clinical point of view. Depression's real. I'm going to have a special guest on. And another video that is in the works, at least I hope is in the works. I've been talking to the individual. And that is an ordinary guy living an ordinary life, working an ordinary job, retired early to do beyond ordinary things. Looking forward to that show. Looking forward to doing a show on the differences between a free enterprise system, capitalism, communism, Nazism, fascism, and red fascism, and draw some dots and make some correlations. Working on that show. And I'm working on a show about sex. And what is going on in the world when it comes to all this stuff. It's all tied to the pandemic stuff. It's all tied to the Agenda 2030. But it has to do with sex. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm working on that. So I hope you, again, I hope you like and subscribe, hit the notification buttons on YouTube, and prepare to join me for the next videos. And until then, take care. And thank you for watching.